Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. I've got a number of MVS boards here that I'm looking at for one of my Patreons actually. It was something I offered to do before people start asking me to try and look at their things. And actually I think I've took on a bit more than I can handle here. I've got like 9 MVS boards to look at. This one is going to be one of these. I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to recover it or not. In fact, some of these boards are going to be like that. We'll just give it my best shot. You can see the battery's leaked here. We've got corrosion. You can see down there on top of the C1. I'll remove the plastic housing. We'll get the battery off. I'll clean it all up and see what damage has been done. But it looks extensive actually. This one's come up with white blocks and things. When you've got the diag thing there, the text doesn't come up properly. It's like there's something wrong with the graphics. So yeah, a little bit strange. And I think if you boot with a normal ROM, it comes up saying the Z80 error. But the start part, I think, of the boot process looks okay there. So there is some hope for this one. I'll work my way through these a video at a time. I'm not going to show them all at once because I'm not sure which order I'm going to do them in and stuff. And this one on its own could take me a while. So anyway, we'll unscrew the screws that hold the plastic cart harness on and have a close look at the board. Well, I've only been looking at this a few minutes, but I'm coming to a fast conclusion actually. I think this one is going to have to be used for spares. I might just continue cleaning it up just to see how extreme it really is, but I mean, just to show you the traces here. Loads of the traces here are damaged, loads of the traces there are damaged. The YM2610, I don't know how close I'm going to be able to get you. I could put you on macro in a minute, but can you see corrosion all the way down the side of the 2610? Those are hard to get off the board when you've got perfect traces. So the fact we've got loads of corrosion there, that in its own right is a nightmare repair, just on its own, without any of these things. You can see how dull the pins there are, loads of corrosion on both sides, in fact 3 sides of that chip there, the D0, loads on the C1, all down this side here, very, very green. And lots of these traces here, you can see, you know, the traces are gone, and these chips here, the traces underneath them. And then all of the small components and things around here, which we'll probably need swapping out, or think. I might be able to clean 1 or 2 of these up, but yeah, it doesn't bode well actually. This is the main reason why, if you ever get any of these boards second hand, you know, for spares, repair or whatever, remove the blooming battery. That battery's perhaps just been sat around on this for the last however many years it's been sat in storage, and that's the big problem. If that battery would have been took off at the point it was, you know, last bought by somebody, maybe we wouldn't have so much damage here now. So I think we'll take a side step and have a look at a different board, because that other one's just doing my head in at the moment. The main thing is I haven't got any spares to swap anything out. I can't swap the C1, I could swap the D0, I don't know, I might do that from one of these other boards. But we'll have a look at this one. So this one's just given, I think, well, I'll show you in a minute. I'm going to remove the ROM first, we can then try it when it's in a socket, and I'll swap over to the diagnostics. It's given like I think it's a Watchdog or random colours and blocks and things. So we'll see what stays with this one. You can see again the battery's not been removed on this one. We'll leak some IPA under there and get that battery off, but yeah, I'm not too fussed about getting rid of that just now. Those don't tend to leak, but it needs removing. We'll have a quick inspection on the underside, but I don't see any massive gouges or anything like that. So I'll free up the solder initially with the desolder station. You can see some of the pins up there where you've got the 5V rail are not freeing up. So what I will do is release the chip with hot air actually at the end. That's the easiest thing to do. I've worked out it is the quickest way. Smaller chips like this, smaller dip chips, if the pins are straight and it's a small chip, I will just remove it with hot air now, because it's far easier than messing around trying to desolder this way actually. Which is a bit unorthodox, but yeah, you've got to use whatever techniques help you do a quicker, better job. Well, I've not shared with you the showing of the removal bit there. I'll do that on one of the other boards actually, that we'll show later. That was an absolute nightmare to get off, seriously. The amount of heat that a board can absorb is unbelievable. Yeah, the 1F is far, far easier to remove larger chips. I I remember when I removed the YM2610 from these boards, it wasn't quite as hard as that one was. Yeah, that was really difficult. There we go, all cleaned up. So I'll get the socket on. The other benefit of using the hot air there like that is the board's usually warm afterwards. Yeah, we might have one or two pins that are going to be a bit tight here. Oh no, it's gone on. There we go. Yeah, the board is still warm afterwards, and if you try and unblock any blocked holes at that point, it's super easy. So we'll just solder that on now. So this one's doing exactly the same as it was previously, actually. Well, it's slightly different, but then again, you get different things coming on the screen there, each power on. So this is a tricky one. I've checked the clocks on the D0, that looks okay. I mean, it's watchdogging still, but you've got to question why would it not be able to boot? The CPU's one possibility. Other things on the data bus are another. So I'm thinking actually moving the Neo-Buf chip at GA11. That buffers the program interface to the card, you know, so the data bus from the CPU there connects to the card. If something's wrong with that buff chip, let's say it's outputting lows or something like that, or highs when it shouldn't be doing, that would mess it up. The one on the pallet would do that as well, actually, I think. If it was just wrong, if it was just outputting highs or something like that, I could scope the data bus. Maybe I should scope the data bus just to prove one way or another. I'd have to disable the Watchdog. Yeah, I might just take a punt, and I might just remove that Neo-Buf chip, actually. I mean, there's lots of other things that can cause this. Faults like this are really hard to diagnose. He's got some really difficult boards to work on here. Nothing's getting warm. The PALs maybe, one of the PALs is perhaps getting a little bit warmer than the other, the 1A. I think what I'll do is I'll move on to another board, because what I don't want to do is start swapping out chips when I don't really know what's what on these, you know, between the different boards. I'd like to get some of the boards up and running first, so I can then start to consider taking measurements and stuff and do comparisons, and maybe doing a swap that way. For example, the PALs, I'm thinking those might be the easiest thing just to swap over at this stage, because they're the only things getting warm, really. The GRC a little bit, but not, you know, like hardly anything. What I don't want to do is get bogged down scoping everything at this stage. I'd rather just work my way through these and get some of them up and running, you know, as quick as possible, and then start looking at things like this one, I think. So we'll skip on to the next one. So this next one's giving a pallet error. This is an MV1A board, not the X. So it's got the ROM socketed. So bank 0 address, yeah, first start address there of the pallet RAM. Actual 4555 expected. So we've got a bit not set there on the upper. So the question is it the upper pallet RAM, or is it the Neo-Buf? I'm inclined to think it's going to be the Neo-Buf. This is the big problem here. There is no way, without using a logic analyzer or something really, there is no way of telling whether it's the RAM or the Neo-Buf. That's the big problem. Yeah, so dilemma. Do I change the RAM, or should I swap the Neo-Buf? I think I'll swap the Neo-Buf actually. We'll move it to the controller area. Before we do that, let's test the controller out. Let me connect the controller up. Just test player 2, left, right, up, down, A, B. Yeah, A's not working on player 2. On the player 2, is that the jammer? Yeah, we've got a bad jammer edge there. Just because the connections are really super dirty. But at least the Neo-Buf in the controller area would seem to work at this stage. So I thought about it, and actually I pulled the one off the one we looked at previously that's given a Watchdog even with the diagnostics, because I don't see any sense. I might still revisit this board, but we're going to need to remove, I would say, a number of these Neo-Buf chips off a donor board somewhere. The alternative is I do a little mod on top there with, like I did in the previous video there. I'll post a link down below or stick a card up here. to use a HC245, but it's a bodge, so it's all very well if you're going to maintain your own things like that if you can't get hold of a spare chip. But I suspect the guy who owns these is going to want to sell them on to prospective Neo Geo owners. So I don't really want to start doing that kind of mod if I can avoid it. And some of the custom chips, let's say we've got a problem with the MG80 on here. Where am I going to get that from? It's got to come from one of these boards. I'm not going to materialise one out of air. It's the same with the PALs as well, although I have got some of these PALs. I would need to program them up, but I just don't see any point. I think one or more of these boards is going to have to be sacrificed for parts. Hopefully just one, if we can get away with it. Because the other thing is, I'm suspecting the Neo-Buf chip will be required on the one with the Z80 you've not seen yet. So I could pull the one from here, and assuming that the other Neo-Bufs are on here, we've got another 3 or 4 Neo-Bufs that could fix 3 or 4 of the other boards, actually. So I think that's the road I'm going to go with, actually. For the moment, my thoughts are it could be this one. And I might remove that next, actually, because it'd be interesting to see whether that would make any difference with this board. But we'll wait until we get to the next board that's got a Neo-Buf fault, and we'll take the one from here, the J11 spot, and then we'll retest this board. Bear in mind it'll have 2 miss, it'll have the controller 1 miss as well, but that's not important. It should still boot if that's causing it. And if it is, great, then we've solved this board. Then may need to do something here to populate repopulate where we've stolen a Neo-Buf. But yeah, anyway, that's the approach I'm going to go with. So we'll stick this onto the other board now. So pad's all cleaned up, ready to receive the other chip. EEV block ruler treatment just to flatten the pins. You want to get them as flat as possible so that when it goes back on there, it sits as flat as possible. Pin 1 markings up here, there's like a beveled edge, and it actually corresponds with the edge, not really beveled, chamfered or whatever, there. So if we now stick that back on and get it in position, inspect, tack one corner then the other, and drag solder. Yeah, so that's in position. I've got these down to a T now, actually, removing and soldering these. I can do it pretty quick, about 15 minutes-ish, maybe a bit more than that. Going to get restricted by the ROM here. And a bit more solder, I think. I'm also at a funny angle and a distance, so yeah, this is up. I was going to say, this is sometimes why I do the dab thing, because the tops of the pins look awful there. Yeah, that's not too bad. I'll inspect it, obviously, before I test it. Same thing again there, the tops look awful. Too bad. Just that back side now. So I'll inspect that and we'll give it a try. Well, that didn't work when I took one from the controller area. So I stuck the one on here from the GA11 spot on the other board, and as you can see, all tests passed. So yeah, it was the Neo-Buf. The first time I swapped it, we took it from the control area on that other board, and clearly it's faulty in that area. But I suspect it might be like it was on the other board I had in a previous video, whereby it worked in the direction for the controllers, i.e. reading in from the controllers, but it didn't work in the other direction, and I think that was the issue, because it was saying, palette RAM unwritable with that chip in that position. So at least that's one fixed, and I did hit it first time really. With if I had a good Neo-Buf chip there, I would have hit it instantly when I swapped it over. So we'll just get the M1 DAG into there and just test the sound. So I've got another issue there actually on this board. As you can see, the text sort of doubles up. So you can see on this board here I marked it up Z80 error, then red screen. So it was almost like, following on from the Z80 test, something was messing up the CPU. So what I've done on this one is just quickly remove the 273, and I'm going to remove the 273 on the other one, you know, the one we just looked at a minute ago, the palette error, and then once we fix that, we've got some doubled up text when you do the Z80 test, because I'm thinking it's going to be the same problem on that one. So we'll test it on this one. We'll remove the 273. Let's see if we get rid of the red screen following the Z80 error. We're going to get a Z80 error. That might be faulty as well, maybe even the other 273. Could even have a faulty Z80 or something else in that area, you know, the setup there. But in particular, I'm interested in trying to solve that red screen, and then we'll try and do exactly the same thing on the one with the doubled up text to see if that solves that. And indeed it has. If I hold down D, you will see now we get a legit error. We can press start and it just gives us an error. That's fine, that's normal. We're not getting the red screen. Now I appreciate I didn't show you the red screen. Yeah, controls seem a bit intimate on this one as well, so it might need a Neo-Buf on the controller there, but we're not getting the yeah, so it looks like the start's not working, so it's got a Neo-Buf issue there, I think. So we'll try it on that other board now, the one with the doubled up text, the palette issue resolved, and let's just see if it's you know, solves the doubled up text. So as I say, back over to the one which we've just fixed the palette issue on. I'm going to remove this 273, and we'll just see whether it fixes that double up text issue. We're still going to have a Z80 error, obviously, because we're breaking the communication totally, but it's just interesting on the other board, we've hit it first time. This is the benefit of, you know, the time I spent on the previous repairs of these, actually, these 1A and 1AX boards. What I learnt there is helping big time. It may well be that the Neo-Bufs are faulty on both these boards as well, that relate to the 273. But the 273 shouldn't be outputting, you know, causing the data bus to be a problem at the end of the test there. So, yeah, it stands to reason it just could be the 273s. It could also be the 273s that are killing the Neo-Bufs. That might be what's happening on all of these boards I've looked at. This one's taking a bit longer to get off than the other one, actually. I think it depends on how affected the solder is, you know, in terms of where it's being stored and stuff. Yeah, we're almost there. Do you hear that click? I'm not putting any force here, just putting the screwdriver underneath and almost letting it use its own weight. You know, just let it go like that. It's the weight of the screwdriver, and you'll just hear clicks as it reaches temperature. There we go. So we'll let that one cool down, and we'll try that one without the 273 to see if we've solved that doubled up text thing when it fails the Z80 error. Because that text should not be doubling up. That is indicative to me that something is interfering with the data bus, and I'm guessing that's going to be what the cause is. So yeah, that suggests there's something a bit more worrying going on this one. So back over to the board that was given a red screen, which we resolved from changing the 273, removing it. I put a 273 back on there, so it's not doing the red screen anymore, so that 273 was faulty. And we're getting the same issue we had a few videos back, C3, D3, which I forget, was that like D4, I think it was? It could have been the uppermost data bit now I think about it, I can't remember. Yeah, it would be, I think. So I think I'm going to just swap out the Neo-Buf. Actually, we'll take the one off that board that has well, currently been used for parts. Actually, it's had a few Neo-Bufs took off it. So I've done the SM1 bypass just to bypass the ROM. So ignore that bit. This bit takes longer, but then we get this 3C50. But the good thing is it's now a consistent value coming back every time. So just leaving a few things to consider there. Maybe the Z80. I mean, the ROM is still on the board, so if it was outputting when it shouldn't be doing, it's going to cause a problem. But since I'm doing the ROM bypass, we're getting a different behaviour there, we're getting a consistency, which makes me think the ROM is actually the fault on this one as well, actually. Swapped out the Z80, bypassed the SM1, and as you will see, skip that, all tests passed. So I think that one's resolved. I just need to maybe try the ROM back on there, because I did the bypass before I swapped out the Z80, so maybe the ROM's okay. but we're not getting sound. That's the strange thing. Now it could be the jammer edge, because the jammer edge is really dirty. I might just clean up the jammer edge as well as putting the SM1 on. I've played with the volume. I don't hear anything, not even any hissing. So that makes me think we've got a sound, you know, an actual sound problem on this as well, not just the digital side, but on the analog, you know, the amplification. So I've put the SM1 back on, but it is bypassed, and it's passing all tests. So that shows the SM1 is not outputting what it shouldn't be doing. Yeah, so the SM1 wasn't the issue. It's the Z80, Neo-Buf, and one of the 273s, I think. Maybe both the 273s, I don't know. I'd recommend just replacing both the 273s if you're working on one of these MV1A or MV1AX boards. So the next mystery is why we're getting no sound still. You know, the amplification stage is not working. I haven't cleaned up the jammer edge yet. I'll do that next, and I'll disable that bypass. So I attach the SM1 back. So the SM1 bypass, which I covered in a previous video, I'll stick a card up there for it. R72, yeah, I just need to reinstate this. I've got the resistor on the board there. I just need to use the magnifier, make sure it's in the right place. But you remove that resistor from the right hand side there, solder a wire down to this wire here, and that bypasses the SM1. Bear in mind you'll get a Z80 with the stock BIOS, but the Unibus you can just skip past it and everything should work as normal if your sound subsystem is all okay there, you know, all of the Neo-Buf stuff and 273, Z80, etc. But all I need to do is just get a tiny bit of solder, got a bit of flux there already, hold the resistor in place, solder one side, and then just solder the other side. So I think in all fairness it's probably got a problem with the amp. Might need, well, all of these are going to need recapping, but we'll just clean up the edge connector here with the fiberglass pen. I'm tempted to swap out the little amp chip there actually. I might just do that next. Finally we have sound, as you can hear. That was an absolute nightmare to sort the sound out. The pot was not working, 1K pot, swapped the pot out, still no sound, swapped out the op amp and we've got sound. So that's one down, just testing the second port, second controller there, player 2, working fine. 9 more to go. So back over on the board where I swapped out the palette Neo-Buf, and then we also removed the 273. That was the fault. I'll put a different 273 on here now, and we're getting expected 00 instead of C3, I think. So that to me says Z80 actually. I've seen that before a number of times when the Z80 is totally dead. So I think we'll just swap the Z80 out on this one, and fingers crossed that might fix this board. And after a Z80 swap, that one's working as well. Now the interesting thing with this one's got a load of hiss, can you hear? And the volume doesn't seem to affect it. Could be another bad volume part. So I need to clean off the flux from where I've just swapped out the chip there, remove the excess solder in the corners. I'm going to get the fiberglass pen onto that edge of that chip there because it's pretty bad. I need to finish cleaning up around the Neo-Buf we swapped out earlier. And like the other one, I'll do the jammer edge here. We'll remove the battery and I'll yeah, ground the crystals I did in that previous board, and that shouldn't be too fixed so far, I think. Oh, these boards are a nightmare. We've solved the sound issue. Just watch this. See that there? That's strange. Why have we lost sound again? We had sound a second ago. I'm starting to wonder if we've now got an intermittent sound issue as well on this board. Yeah, I think we have. But just watch what happens now. I think we've got a problem with the S1 wire or something. Look at this. What on earth's this? And the music's gone. Or the sound, rather. What the? Bearing in mind it passes diagnostics, it's got sound there. Now someone has swapped out the Yamaha, so I'm thinking, and it looks awful, soldering on it. So I mean, yeah, it may need a new Yamaha, but there's something wrong with, yeah, the fix layer, you know, the winner there, I think. Oh, never ends. The sound, that noise, by the way, on the sound was the pot. It was just needed cleaning. These boards are terrible. You can see we've got some corrosion up here next to the YM2610, so we might have broken trace there, and the pins just look awful. Someone's like reflowed these, I think. They're just terrible. And then up here, I never noticed, someone's been messing around swapping chips here. I just never noticed that. I should have inspected a bit more thoroughly. The nice thing is I did see, I don't know if you can see it, can you see? Can you see? It stands out a little bit. We've got a pin inside there that's white. So that might be the problem with the fix layer. So I'm thinking the cause is the Neo i0 actually. Just because that does some of the address decoding, I think, for the S1 stuff, but also it drives the SM1 chip select. You know, when you insert a car, I think it toggles it. I think. So bear in mind that looks like it's been swapped before. That's for the scaling, I think, or zoom, I should say. 259. Someone's tinkered with that. I did check the 04 here, it's just a NOT gate, so you know, you check an input, if say it's high, the output will be low, if the input's low, the output will be high. We're going around that seems okay. Most of them are pulsing actually, so that's a good, you know, pretty conclusive test of that. We've got this chip up here, which is the SFIX ROM. Again, that looks like that's been tinkered with, which suggests to me that someone's tried to swap that out. So I think we would assume that the chips that have been swapped probably work alright. Let's try the Neo IO. Maybe we should try the SFIX ROM first. But would that affect the Z80? Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I think this has got the two in common. Yeah, we'll swap out the Neo i0 from the junk board. So chip removed, solder removed with braid on the board there. So I put the old one to the side, and I've took the one off the junk board. There's very little on that other board now. I took all the Neo-Buf chips off there, a couple of 273s and the Neo i0. So we'll get the solder off the underside of that with some solder braid and then mount it. So that didn't make a difference. I need to clean up around there. The other thing that I've noticed with the Unibars, you just get a black screen if you've not got a cart in. It's not showing the crosshatch. So I'm wondering about the Neo F0 actually, to do with the test mode. Maybe something's going wrong here, I don't know. There's the 259, I mean there's a connection that goes down from that 259 down to the F0 actually. I might just swap out that 259 next because it's easy to do. Yeah, go on, let's do that. The good thing is, as I'm doing this, I'm keeping the chips, you know, taking the chips off, and I know that they're good chips. So as I work through some of the other boards, if we find faults, I can easily just, you know, swap them out. Anyway, we'll swap out that one next, just because it's crusty. Hooray, thank goodness for that. We've actually got a crosshatch back. So it was the 259. But this is the problem when you get a board like this, where, you know, you could see that someone had tinkered with that before. Had they replaced the 259 and they just resoldered it, you know, they were on the right tracks, because that was the area I focused in, around the fix ROM there. The next thing really was that, and then beyond that, maybe one of the PALs or that F0. But that seems like that solved that problem. I'm guessing we're going to have the Z80, the sound issue. You know, I don't know if they've got a problem with the DAC. Maybe we're missing the digital. So let's get the game back in, let's just see how it behaves now. Now we had the splash music, well, most of the time. It was the game music we were lacking. Oh yes, I'll put it back. Yeah, I'm trying to turn it down on the TV and it's going through a speaker, it's just the pot. So I think we fixed that board there. If I knew what I knew now at the start of this particular board, I would have used this board for spares. Because, well, that would have been a bad decision actually, because there's that many faulty things. Yeah, you can see the dilemma. So it was worth pursuing, you know, continuing on. But a lot of faults on this board. I can't get over how many things are wrong with this board. These boards are awful. Seriously awful. I wonder if it's been over voltaged or something, because I fail to believe it could have so many independent faults. Fantastic. Right, I'll clean it up now. So all cleaned up at the back there now. I cleaned this ROM as well and desoldered on top of the pins because someone had got solder on both sides of that. It looked an absolute state. So yeah, the 259 was faulty. Everything else around here was okay. We started with a pallet issue on this board. That was where the Neo-Buf needed replacing. Needed a new op amp. The pot was not clever either. That needed cleaning up. 273, Neo-Buf 273. I'm not sure both of those were faulty, but I've still got the old ones, and what I'm going to do is, once I've got all these boards running, I'm going to take some of the parts I've got question marks over, and one of those 273s certainly has, and test them on one of the boards. It did need a new Z80, and obviously it needed a new Neo-Buf. Incredible really, yeah, a lot wrong with that board. So this is that board. I've been taking the spares off. As you can see, it's yeah, all the Neo-Buf chips apart. Well, 3 of the Neo-Buf chips have gone off. I've still got 2 on here. The 259 we just used, these were okay, but I'm just keeping them off the man. There's no point in putting them back on here. I can always attempt to try and get this one back up and running again later, but I suspect it's going to be either of these, or it's going to be you know, one of these, a main fault I think on that one. Because it gives a watchdog, even with the diagnostics. It's got to be something interfering with the address and the data bus. I mean, we might not be able to fix that 1F, but what I'm thinking is, since we've got this board here now, I'm going to remove the D0 and we'll swap that D0 onto the 1F, because the D0 was more corroded than the C1, but actually I think the C1 is the cause of the board. But let's just rule it out. We've got nothing to lose, and at least if it's no different, we've got a D0 ready to go onto one of the other boards should it need it. So a bit of an abrupt ending to the first part here, because I have recorded that much footage. My hard disk's overflowing and it's just a logistical nightmare trying to edit these. It seriously is. I've had to cut so much footage out of this particular video. In the upcoming parts there's more examples of removing chips and sticking them back on, including some of the larger chips, you know, like the D0 and stuff. But I've had to cut quite a lot out because there's just, you know, it's just so time consuming editing this stuff and what have you, and you're going to get bored of seeing the same things in every single video, so I'm trying to show you different things within the different videos here. So I think this was the one with the palette issue. It's kind of like a dark green kind of board. I've done the same thing on all of these. I've cleaned up the connectors as best as I can. That one still needs a bit of cleaning actually. I don't think I've done that one yet, but as you'll see towards the back end of these videos, when we get to the last one, I'll show you some close-ups of the boards and things, you know, and you'll see, you know, how clean they are. They've just had a gentle clean, you know. I've not spent masses of time. You know. For example, there's still a little bit of flux on those components there. This is the one where I said the YM2610 had been swapped previously by someone else, and you can see solder points don't look that great. They're okay, there's just not very much solder on that side. So, you know, it's been cleaned up. All of these have been cleaned up. I've soldered, you can't see it, I've soldered the ground straps on each of the crystals, you know, just to make sure they're grounded. The pots have all had to be cleaned, 1 or 2 of them have been replaced. But, you know, just a quick look, these, I don't think these are the exact same 3 boards that I covered in this video, but this is a kind of representation of how I've done the clean-up work. You know, I've cleaned up the shells, removed any of the labels off them, put new feet onto some of them. The others have just got the original feet, as you can see. But we got yeah, 3 boards fixed so far out of the 10 or 11 that I'm covering in this series. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.